Hello and welcome to Your Health Reclaimed with DrPND, where we help you reclaim your health with tips, tools, and resources to live your most optimal and vibrant life. Here's your host, DrPND.
Hello and welcome to Your Health Reclaimed. This is your host, Dr. PND. Today we are going to talk about a really popular subject. Not really. Sugar. You guys have probably heard me talk a lot about that topic, and especially a lot of my seminars and presentations that I've done over the years. I have spoken about sugar, and for a good reason. Sugar is a pernicious substance that has an extremely large contribution to our chronic disease epidemic in this country. And today, I am going to talk briefly about the 8 natural sugars that are supposedly healthier for you. I'm going to give some links and some information after we finish that you guys can do some very thorough and dig deep into the topic of sugar and why it's so dangerous from chemical and biochemical metabolic standpoint. Here, I'm not going to talk about the details and the intricacies. Basically, here I just want to talk about a big problem that I see with my patients and my clients a lot, and they have the belief that there's very good natural sugars that are a lot healthier and better for you, and unfortunately, that is not the case. So I'm going to talk about what they are, and at the end, I'm going to clarify exactly what they pertain to and primarily who they pertain to, okay? Like we talked about numerous times before, people ask, is something good for you? Is it bad for you? There are some things that are obsoletes. There are things that are absolute and they're not good for anybody. And there's some things can be, very good for everybody. But most of the things, like anything else, it's not whether they're really bad for somebody or really good for somebody. The question is really, are they really good or bad for who? Are they good for you? If they are so, they might not be good for somebody else. So we're going to talk about this today, afterwards, because there's a lot of confusion over this topic, and things are never black and white. Okay, it really depends on the person and their unique situation. And in this case, I'm talking to my audience is primarily not to healthy and vibrant people, but it is to people that I work with, folks that have chronic disease and would like to address it, would like to get better. So again, topic today is going to be sugar, and good reason. It's a big, massive problem for pretty much everybody. And a lot of people that say that it's not a problem for them, they're delusional. They're simply delusional. They're lying to themselves, so they're just straight out lying. No, but sugar is extremely addictive, and for a good reason. So I'm not going to go into the details again. I'm going to give you some information at the bottom after we finish here, and you guys can go and do a deep dive on the topic of sugar and why it is so dangerous and damaging. Okay, so many foods in our local healthy supermarkets, whatever it be, Sprouts, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, whatever it be, they have alternatives that thought to be regular, a lot better alternatives and healthy alternatives to the good old sugar. Basically implying a more nutritious choice, things like brown sugar and cane sugar and honey and organic honey and brown rice syrup. Basically, the marketing suggests that products like this that are labeled organic or all natural have a far less damaging effect than processed sugar. But the truth is, it's not. That's not true at all. Natural organic really doesn't mean anything when it comes to sugar, whether it's honey, agave nectar, beet sugar, or whatever else, it's still sugar. People always ask me, in my seminars, well, is all sugar bad? If you have metabolic disease, yes, it is. Sugar is sugar, and sugar is sugar, bottom line. It doesn't matter, I don't care what it's from, okay? But this trips a lot of people because, generally speaking, people do a good job in marketing, companies do, to trick people that something is better than, something else. In this case, all those alternatives we're going to talk about are better than regular good old white table sugar, okay? They always ask, well, what about added sugar versus naturally occurring sugars? What is the difference? Table sugar, or aka sucrose, is nearly equal amounts of glucose and fructose. Okay? Glucose is the body's primary energy source that comes from the foods that we eat, primarily carbohydrates, starch carbohydrates. Fructose is a natural simple sugar found in fruits and vegetables, primarily fruits, of course. It's also commonly added to processed foods and used to make products like high fructose corn syrup, which is probably definitely the worst of the worst. Consuming too much of either these can definitely have health consequences. If somebody's battling chronic disease, as I said, consuming these substances, regardless of how little, is not going to help them at all. If anything, many times it can hurt them by not allowing them to truly improve. So there are consequences. Too much glucose, everybody knows, that leads to blood sugar spikes. Too much fructose, will not cause the same rise in blood sugar, but can still lead to insulin resistance and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. That's why for a while, people used to excuse themselves, say, well, I'm eating fructose, and fructose is natural, it's extracted from fruit, and therefore I can have a lot more of it because it really doesn't, excite insulin response like regular table sugar does. Well, yeah, technically that is true, but luckily over time, people realize that that has other damaging effect. And the reason being is because the liver metabolizes fructose, and in the presence of excess fructose, the liver can start turning the sugar into fat, a process known as de novo lipogenesis, or DNL. So no matter what form of package the sugar comes in, your body will still breaks it down into these basic compounds of fructose and glucose. Whether the sugar in the body you eat is naturally occurring or added doesn't really matter for optimal metabolic health. It really doesn't. Instead, the total amount that a person consumes and how quickly and easily the body absorbs it really has the most impact. Excess dietary sugar will lead to health problems without fail eventually. Most likely to obesity and type 2 diabetes. But even if the person doesn't get type 2 diabetes technically and or become obese, they still are going to have a metabolic issue and a problem with that, such as insulin resistance. So excess dietary sugar, again, it will lead to problems. And people that are chronically ill with chronic metabolic diseases, to them, even small amounts of that can be detrimental to their improvement and can drastically slow down or even completely retard their healing. So here are the 8 common misconceptions and natural, sugars that I always tell people to avoid. And they're the most common ones because I get these ones all the time. People ask me about this all the time. So first one is cane sugar, especially if they buy a certified USDA organic cane sugar. So cane sugar, it's probably the oldest source of sugar available to us, predating over 2,500 years ago. I believe it was initially discovered or made in India. It's made out of sugar cane. This is basically that type of tropical grass that is usually was at least native to South Asia. Obviously Florida has it. There are many types of sugars that are made from sugar cane, including processed white sugar, brown sugar, molasses, and so forth. Sugarcane is mostly sucrose. So since sucrose comprises of 1 fructose and 2 glucose molecules, raw sugarcane juice has an even glucose to fructose-based ratio. So while cane sugar is roughly 99% sucrose, and brown cane sugar is between, 88 to 93 sucrose, it really doesn't matter. It's still problematic. So the takeaway is, no matter the form, excess cane sugar will lead to rapid rise in glucose, okay? Even products that, again, labeled as completely natural and organic or unrefined still go through an extraction, crystallization, and packaging process, which puts them on par with regular table sugar. So I don't care where you buy, Demerara sugar, organic, whole raw cane, crystallized cane sugar. It doesn't matter. It is still a pernicious product that you should not be using. Okay. Again, I'm not talking about someone who is young and metabolically healthy, especially if they're using athletics and certain other uses that they're using that for, appropriate, in an appropriate manner, in an appropriate, safe manner. I'm strictly speaking here with people who are obese and or have metabolic diseases that are trying to reverse. Okay. So what amount of sugar is safe? Really, normal, especially when it comes to somebody trying to reverse type 2 diabetes, improve or really completely reverse insulin sensitivity issues, insulin resistance, and or they're trying to lose excess body fat, such as in obesity. Okay. So number 2, brown sugar. Brown sugar, all it does combines white sugar that is made from sugarcane with the molasses to give it a unique taste and color. But like white sugar, it still goes through the same extensive extraction and packaging process that strips away its nutrients, leaving a product that is mostly empty calories. The sugar composition of, the composition of brown sugar is still 88 to 93% sucrose. Pretty much same as cane sugar. Really not much difference and really not healthy at all. Okay. So like cane sugar, corn syrup, and honey, brown sugar is often added to already processed foods and is really not healthier than other sugars at all. So do not be fooled. If you see brown sugar, it means absolutely nothing. It's still the same garbage. Number 3, that one became really popular back in 2008, the agave nectar, okay, or agave syrup. It comes from Mexico. It's made out of, the agave plant, which is like a succulent cactus, some kind. But because of its high fructose content, agave nectar tastes sweeter than even syrups with similar sugar makeup. So agave nectar is more than 60% fructose. The remainder is composed of glucose and trace amounts of sucrose. Agave syrup, again, is high in carbs, but it has a low glycemic index, technically speaking. Therefore, people immediately, especially back in the day, assume that it is a natural, healthy alternative to sugar. And unfortunately, it is not, okay? So this might sound like a good thing, as a low GI means, GI, I'm talking about glycemic index, means the body takes longer to process that sugar, okay? But the problem is high fructose content of agave syrup. That is the issue again. Since the liver is the only organ able to process this simple sugar, it can easily get overloaded, which it does, and leading to long-term problems like fatty liver disease and insulin resistance, like we talked about previously, the DNO, and with de novo lipogenesis. So again, lay off of it. Also, in addition to that, agave syrup is mostly, depending where you get it from, still is very highly refined and processed. Okay, it's not really the original native, raw, they call, pure raw unrefined agave syrup that they used to make. It's very highly processed and refined. In addition to that, also a lot of manufacturers actually are putting in very highly refined, even high fructose corn syrup or fructose to the agave syrup in order to cut cost, because you can't really trace that. So you can't really say whether there's anything added to it. But from the inside industry standpoint, there has been a known fact for a while. Okay. So bottom line, stay away from agave syrup. Number 4, coconut sugar. That has been kind of the latest and the greatest the last, 5-7 years, especially the influx of, coconut oil and, coconut oil products and, MCTs, the medium chain triglycerides, the whole thing with the keto diet and all that. They really got introduced. Well, right after that, the coconut sugar rolled in, and it was touted by default as the end all be all of a healthy sugar that has zero problems, literally. Some people even exalted it as absolutely 100% safe, and not only safe, but actually extremely very healthy, just like coconut oil. And that's a lie too. That is absolutely not the case. So coconut sugar is made by evaporating the sap from coconut palm trees. Okay, so it's not even from the coconuts themselves. Like other sugars obtained from natural sources, coconut sugar will lose nutritional value depending on how it's processed, stored, and transported. The sugar composition is roughly 70 to 80% sucrose and between 3 and 9% glucose and fructose. So coconut sap, again, from which coconut sugar is made, yes, it is technically rich in minerals, vitamins, and antioxidants, and offers a lower glycemic index than the comparative cane sugar. But refined coconut sugar, the form typically used as an additive and as a sweetener that people buy in the grocery stores, is no better for you than cane sugar. And if you're going to justify, well, it has minerals and vitamins and antioxidants, well, go eat some fruit, organic, natural, low sugar fruit. Better yet, some good organic vegetables. So here you go. If you want to justify your minerals and vitamins and antioxidant intake. Now, it's really amazing how people will absolutely and utterly justify their poison and their addiction by any means necessary. It is amazing to me. And they absolutely don't want to listen. So that's kind of like saying that, hey, I have a very, pure USP grade, organic, certified organic cocaine. It's cocaine is cocaine. It's not going to make any difference. I promise you that. So again, coconut sugar, stay away from it. It is no good. And please don't sit there and justify, well, is the lesser of the two evil? It's not. The bottom line is going to be the same. Okay, if you have metabolic disease, if you have chronic metabolic disease, like type 2 diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, dyslipidemia, whatever it might be, global inflammation, which pretty much anyone is going to have with chronic disease, stay away from it. That is not going to help you. Okay, don't justify it. Just get off of it. Okay. Number five is honey. So that's a very touchy one because a lot of people like the honey. Boy, they'll jump on your throat to defend the honey. So obviously, honey is an ancient natural sugar that predates back, depending who you listen to, 5,000 to 8,000 years ago. There are, even Stone Age paintings that have been discovered depicting the use of sweet golden liquid, or aka honey. Numerous references have been given to that in the Bible as well. But when stored properly, it really never goes bad. And research has found 2,000 plus year old sealed jars of honey buried by the Egyptians that are perfectly still preserved. Honey most certainly can have very high medicinal values for many reasons, as you guys know. But sugar composition is still very high. So even if you're talking about unprocessed honey, that still contains roughly 200 substances. Although the majority is made up of sugar and water, honey still contains about 35 to 40% fructose and glucose. So unlike many sugars, honey has some health benefits due to its antioxidant and antibacterial properties, which a lot of people don't, including also, histamine tolerance and, allergies and stuff like that can be really good for. It's been used as food and in traditional medicine for thousands of years. So unfortunately, though, its high carb content will still lead to a rapid blood sugar rise. So it's not a healthy or really soft or stable sugar. And because it's not a sweeter sugar, people by default are going to use a lot more of it. So again, just like the coconut sugar, there are better ways to get antioxidants and micronutrients, such as organic whole foods and vegetables, okay, among other things. First of all, we are talking about here honey that is unrefined, unprocessed, raw, local honey. That is going to have the medicinal values that people keep arguing about. Most honeys that you buy from the store, even if technically they're organic, they are refined. They have been heavily filtered. Most of them they're not raw, meaning they've been heated. A lot of the enzymes are not actively dead. And also, if you're talking about for pollen and allergies, that's only if you have access to raw, unfiltered, local honey that has the biological signature from the pollen and of your area and the geographical location that you live in. So if you're getting, honey from Hawaii or something, or from California, it's going to have a little benefit, especially when it comes to allergies and stuff like that. Again, justification because it has natural antibiotics and other healing properties, that is still not a reason if you have metabolic chronic disease to be using honey. Is it okay if you used to literally use perhaps a teaspoon a day with your organic tea? Maybe. That too depends on the person. I can tell you that people with very advanced type 2 diabetes, with high blood pressure, heart disease, and obesity, especially the more advanced they are, and if they have all three, the ones that I just mentioned, any sugar has to be taken off initially. And I have seen people that a tablespoon, which is not a lot, a day of raw local organic honey, something that I were able to actually, get locally. I was able to approve it initially. That I've seen be detrimental to the health and did not give them the ability to lose weight and to properly get their blood sugar under control, even that 1 tablespoon. And that's for some reason, it's very hard for people to believe. Again, this is not a podcast for somebody who is a vibrant, healthy individual, perfectly metabolically healthy, they're metabolically flexible, they're fit as a week, okay, and they're fine. That does not apply to them, okay? They can eat a cup of honey a day, every day, and nothing's going to happen to them. Okay, but again, if you have metabolic chronic disease, these things are very important and really you need to heed counsel here, okay? So honey, avoid it, okay? Allergy seasons, half a teaspoon a day, perhaps you might be able to justify, but then again, if you have those issues, taking something like quercetin and zinc and rutin and vitamin C is going to do so much more, for your allergies and sensitivities and histamine intolerance than would, a half a teaspoon of honey. So again, best be avoided. All right, so number 6, the maple syrup. That's in Georgia and Florida, for some reason, maple syrup is not as popular. But up north, when I lived in Michigan, it's very popular, and people get their pennies in a bunch very quickly when you talk about the maple syrup. Why, I don't know. But the sugar composition of maple syrup is about 67% sucrose. The rest of the sugar composition is usually split between glucose and fructose and some other complex carbs. The takeaway here is that, like honey, completely raw, unrefined maple syrup contains, sure, a handful of vitamins and minerals, including things like calcium, iron, magnesium, riboflavin, and thiamine. That is great. But if you're buying at the local store and pick up a bottle of the generic maple syrup, it is not going to be that. It is going to be still be refined or sometimes highly refined or even bastardized product of refined maple syrup and half of high fructose corn syrup. And is not going to have the benefits that you're looking for. Like all other sugars on the list, consuming it still will lead to blood sugar spikes. Okay, and therefore, again, if you have obesity, other metabolic chronic issues, that will be detrimental to your health and to your healing journey. So that too, you have to avoid. And when people use maple syrup, because it's not really technically that sweet, they're not going to have 1 or 2 teaspoons. They're going to usually have a quarter to half a cup with their pancakes or whatever else they're doing. So don't sit there and kid yourself, okay? So unless you can actually go and tap your own maple tree and you're actually able to collect the raw, unrefined, unfiltered, unheated sap and have that, which is really not even that sweet, technically speaking, I guess you might be okay, which pretty much 99.99% of the people don't have that access. So if you buy a bottle from the store, I don't care if it's organic and it's grade A or grade B or whatever, it doesn't matter. That is sugar and sugar is sugar and sugar. It's just the bottom line. So that too, you need to stay away from. All right, so another alternative that kind of became popular, at least that I became aware of back in 2009, 2010-ish, was the brown rice syrup. Okay, so where is it from? Brown rice syrup is made of fermenting or breaking down of brown rice. This process turns the starch basically the rice into a sugary syrup. Like other syrups, this one is very high in sugar, providing a lot of calories but very few nutrients. Brown rice syrup is almost entirely actually glucose. Okay, so the takeaway is organic brown rice syrup gets marketed as a healthier alternative to high fructose corn syrup, and actually that's why it was developed. Which high fructose corn syrup is like Satan, is like the worst. That's the worst metabolic poison in the sugar world. But it's popular and it's gluten-free products and as an added sugar in rice-based items like energy bars and baby milk formula and so forth, kind of made it popular. All right. However, like the other sugars in the list, it will lead to a rapid rise in blood sugar. It is not healthy for you. So also some research also shows organic brown rice syrup that does or can contain high amounts of arsenic. Okay. So there was one test on a milk formula with brown rice syrup as the main ingredient show arsenic levels 6 times higher than the safe drinking water limit. And I remember that back in 2013, 2014. So bottom line, stay away from brown rice syrup as well. A lot of people like it for the gluten-free, even the grain-free people, because it's a good thickener when they bake stuff. It's pretty sticky, it's pretty thick. But again, you're just trying to feed your sugar addiction, so lay off of it. Okay. And here we go, number 8, beet sugar. So where it comes from, as the name indicates beet sugar comes from naturally sweet liquid of the sugar beet. Okay. Sugar beets, by the way, are one of the highest genetically modified grown vegetables in this country as well. So that's a whole other story I'm not going to go into, but just keep that in mind. So the juice is extracted from the beet, purified, crystallized, and granulated into sugar. Just like sugarcane, the beet sugar is very high in sucrose. So we all know the whole beets. Now we're talking about not genetically modified beets, but even talking about just organic, regular beets. Everybody knows that it's a very nutritious vegetable, okay? And researchers have found, beetroot juice and supplementation to hold a lot of promise in controlling type 2 diabetes, improving kidney function, lowering blood pressure, increasing nitric oxide production in the body, and so forth. So we all know that. But beet sugar, on the other hand, has none of those benefits. Okay, like cane sugar, is often added to processed foods and is converted into very high amounts of high fructose syrup because it's genetically modified and is subsidized by the government, just like the genetically modified grains are, corn and soy, for instance. And because of that, it's very cheap to make into high fructose corn syrups. Okay, and which are extremely, extremely potent and sweet, and are, again, that hands down the worst of the worst. So keep those things in mind that, we talked about, and just really heed caution because sugar is very addictive. Okay, there's been plenty of studies done that with human subjects, with rodents, on numerous levels that, really depict and show the, addictive qualities of sugar. And if you don't believe me, if you're eating sweets, try stop eating sugar, see how you do. You're not going to have a good time at all. It depends on severity and depends on your genetics and other factors. You can have a severe withdrawal to that. One of the studies that I was pertaining to is the British Medical Journal, okay, and was the correspondence to Dr. James J. DiNico Lantoni from St. Luke's Mid-American Heart Institute in Kansas City. And here's just real quick what the abstract said. That's one of the latest ones. In animal studies, sugar has been found to produce more symptoms than is required to be considered an addictive substance. Animal data has shown significant overlap between the consumption of added sugars and drug-like effects, including binging, craving, tolerance, withdrawal, cross-sensitization, cross-tolerance, cross-dependence, and reward and opioid effects. Sugar addiction seems to be dependent to the natural endogenous opioids that get released upon sugar intake. In both animals and humans, the evidence in literature shows substantial parallels and overlap between drugs of abuse and sugar from the standpoint of brain neurochemistry as well as behavior. So it's kind of hard to argue that, but yeah, look it up. You can look it up if you don't believe me. Go to Google Scholar and Google sugar addiction. There's a phenomenal movie. It's a documentary by Robert Lustig. He's a medical doctor, a very prominent physician, I believe from UCLA, that has made it his life mission to actually present and speak on the dangers and the addiction of sugar. The documentary is called Sugar, the Bitter Truth. You can just Google that on YouTube. It's free. You can, spend hours upon hours of listening to research and studies, depicting the severity of sugar consumption, of chronic sugar consumption. So, you just really have to think about what is it you're doing? What are your goals? What are you trying to achieve? Again, this podcast is not for somebody who is athletic, metabolically healthy, flexible, has no chronic disease whatsoever, and they're perfectly fine. Okay, they can go eat sugar for 2 months straight, and nothing's going to happen to them in the long run. Okay, but the people that I work with, the people that contact me for help, and what this podcast is for, is not for those people. It's for folks that are sick, that have issues, and they need help, and they need to reverse those issues. Okay, so let's real quick talk about alternatives to natural sugar. I beat this thing to death as far as different alternatives, different products. I can tell you this: the best ones that have withstood the test of time are liquid stevia extract, not powder stevia, liquid stevia extract, and also monk fruit. or low hang extract. They're both liquid extracts. They're both very sweet. Stevia is, I think, 200 times sweeter than sugar, actually. And they do a phenomenal job. And almost always people are completely fine with either one or both. Okay. Sometimes, rarely, you have people that will not like stevia, but eventually they'll get used to it. Surprisingly, I was a person like it took me almost 4 months or so to get used to stevia. And once I did, I absolutely loved it. Because back in the day, I got caught up in this whole health scheme of, oh, it's organic demerara, raw sugar, cane sugar that you can buy and some processed, unfiltered, organic and natural. And because I like coffee, I like black coffee, which, it's sweet. I used to use a lot of it to get it really to taste well. And I was thinking that I was literally doing well, which I wasn't. So when I discovered stevia and eventually, monk fruit, it really was godsend because it made all the difference. I used that with all my clients over the years, and you can use as much or as little as you want. It will absolutely have zero effect on your blood sugar, and will have zero effect on your ability to actually lose body fat if you have excess, body fat or to lose, especially if somebody's obese. So, again, the argument that our bodies need glucose, yes, we do, but that's endogenously produced glucose that is not artificially taken in from the outside. But and also that doesn't mean that you need to seek sugar in your food all the time. The body will create its own glucose based on what it needs. So again, not only can your body make glucose that it needs, which called process called gluconeogenesis, but you can also train your body to burn fat over glucose as well. And that's what's called metabolic flexibility, that a person can utilize body fat for storage, for energy, and or sugar. And people that are very metabolically flexible, they can go back and forth, no problem, without any issues. So again, that's known as metabolic flexibility. But remember, nearly all foods contain some form of carbohydrates. So eating a balanced diet of truly natural, truly whole, unprocessed foods will give you all the energy it needs. And the body's going to let you know. That's why if you're truly eating a healthy, wholesome, nutrient, highly dense diet, it's virtually impossible to become obese, diabetic, or increase your cholesterol or get unhealthy. It's just not going to happen. But the totally opposite is completely true. If you have chronic metabolic issues like type 2 diabetes and obesity, and if you start eating high nutrient dense, wholesome, well-balanced diet to as much as you want per day, you're going to keep losing weight. Your blood sugar is going to improve. You're going to reverse insulin insensitivity and resistance, and you're going to become metabolically healthy. That's all I always tell people. Nutrition is the most powerful weapon you have against chronic disease. That's hands down. It's not supplements, it's not particular protocols, other treatment options. It's nutrition. That is the most powerful weapon anybody has. And that's why I get a lot of calls and a lot of inquiries. Well, if I'm not willing to change my diet, or if I'm just kind of a little bit willing to improve my diet, but I can afford to take all the supplements and other treatment options that are available that are natural, can I reverse them? And I always tell them you can't. Because unless you change your nutrition, you will not succeed. I don't care what it is. Okay. So just keep that in mind. Take those 8 natural sugars that people say is healthy out of your diet. Look on the label. Don't just look in the nutritional facts label. Always read the ingredient list below the nutritional fact label, because this is where you're going to hide. We're going to find the hidden aspects. And a lot of companies are deceptive based on rules and regulations. There are loopholes, what they can and cannot say. And they're really good at avoiding those pitfalls. And they can start sneaking ingredients in that can be detrimental to you. So it might be a little bit that is not even listed on the nutritional fact, but you're going to show up. Like I have a lot of people, for example, show me, well, the product I got was organic, is gluten-free, dairy-free, great, and it has no sugar. I'm like, okay, well, why don't you go ahead and send me nutritional facts then? Sure enough, it says total sugar 0, total added sugar 0, great, okay. Go ahead and send me a snapshot of the ingredients list. And the first 3, 4 ingredients, yeah, okay, good, sounds good. You start going down, and you start seeing things like brown rice syrup, coconut sugar, same thing, by the way. Honey, doesn't matter. Again, sugar is sugar is sugar. Okay, it's really that simple. So if you're trying to lose body fat, if you're trying to improve your metabolic health, sugar has to go. And depends on the severity of your condition, how long you have had it, and also your genetics. It will make a difference of how strictly you have to be. Some people have to be severely strict. Okay, and that is why at some point, in some people, a full-blown ketogenic diet works wonders for them. Okay, because that's what it takes. So anyway, that's the end of the podcast today. Again, just remember this: sugar is not good for you. Okay, I don't care what anybody says. Take it out of your life. Okay, and sugar is sugar is sugar. I don't care from what source it comes in. So thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys have a phenomenal and healthy weekend, and stay strong. Don't give up. Remember, if you don't give up, you will succeed. The formula for success, if there is one such thing, is don't ever give up. You fall, you just get right back up and keep going. You fall again, you keep doing it over and over again until it finally clicks, and eventually it's going to click. I promise you. If you don't give up, you will succeed. So until next time, you guys have a great day. If you have any questions, reach out to us at DrPND.com. Go on our website, fill an inquiry. We give free assessments, free consultations. If there is anywhere we can help you, we would love to do so. Okay? God bless you guys. See you next time.
Thank you for your valuable time and for listening to the Your Health Reclaimed podcast with Dr. PND. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and share this episode with a person you know it can help. If we can help you in any way, or you would like to connect with Dr. PND, please visit DrPND.com. That's DrPND.com.